The human fascination with the lives of the rich and famous has always been an undeniable cornerstone of modern culture, driving an endless cycle of curiosity that fuels television shows, magazine covers, and digital media. We look at these individuals who navigate the glittering landscapes of Hollywood, the high-stakes world of international music, and the fast-paced arenas of reality television, often projecting our own dreams, ideals, and aspirations onto them. For decades, the public has consumed the curated images presented by public relations teams, assuming that the talent, charm, and grace witnessed on screen or on stage reflect the true essence of the person behind the persona. This unspoken agreement between celebrities and their audience relies heavily on the maintenance of a carefully constructed mystique, a golden veil that separates the ordinary individual from the extraordinary icon. In this landscape, the celebrity memoir has traditionally emerged as a sacred offering, a rare and highly anticipated opportunity for fans to step beyond the velvet rope and enter the private sanctuary of their favorite idols. It promises an unfiltered look at the struggles, the triumphs, the human vulnerabilities, and the defining moments that shaped a star, offering readers a chance to connect with these larger-than-life figures on a deeply personal and authentic level. When a beloved actor, musician, or media personality announces the release of a deeply personal autobiography, it triggers a wave of excitement across the global fan base, with readers rushing to bookstores and digital platforms, eager to discover the hidden depths of the minds that have entertained them for years. However, this literary journey into the private worlds of the elite does not always lead to a deeper sense of admiration, and sometimes, the revelation of the true self can have catastrophic consequences for the author's public image as the pages turn and the carefully polished veneer begins to crack under the weight of unedited thoughts and unexpected confessions. A strange and unsettling transformation can occur within the mind of the reader. Instead of fostering a sense of intimacy and empathy, the words on the page can systematically dismantle the very foundation of adoration that took years, or even decades, to establish in the public consciousness. This phenomenon represents a unique and fascinating shift in audience perception, where the act of sharing one's personal truth becomes the very tool that alienates the most loyal supporters. For many avid readers and pop culture enthusiasts, picking up a highly anticipated memoir has resulted in a profound sense of disillusionment, revealing a stark and uncomfortable contrast between the public persona and the private reality. The realization that a seemingly humble, charismatic, or inspiring figure might actually possess traits that are profoundly unappealing can be a jarring experience, leaving fans to grapple with a newfound sense of resentment toward the people they once cheered for. This deep-seated disappointment has sparked intense conversations across global communities and digital forums, where readers gather to discuss the precise moments their admiration dissolved into genuine dislike. It raises compelling questions about the nature of celebrity culture, the boundaries of self-awareness, and the risks inherent in exposing one's true character to a discerning public that is increasingly sensitive to pretense and insincerity. Before we dive deeper into these astonishing literary missteps and explore the specific accounts that forever altered the trajectories of these famous writers, take a moment to subscribe to our channel and join our growing community so you never miss our deep dives into the hidden realities of the entertainment world. The journey into the world of poorly received celebrity literature reveals a fascinating spectrum of critical failure, ranging from unexpected personality shifts to jaw-dropping displays of privilege that leave readers entirely cold. When we invest our time and emotion into the creative output of an artist, we naturally construct an internal narrative about who they are as a human being, often filling in the blanks with the most positive attributes imaginable. A comedic actress might be assumed to possess a warm, self-deprecating wit in real life, while a legendary lifestyle guru is expected to radiate the same cozy, welcoming hospitality that defines their television empire. When these assumptions are shattered by the author's own words, the backlash can be swift and permanent, transforming a treasured fan relationship into an irreversible state of critique. The digital landscape has given a powerful voice to these disappointed audiences, allowing them to share their collective shock at how certain celebrities could willingly publish material that exposes their deepest flaws without a shred of irony or self-restraint. These are not merely cases of poor grammar or weak editing, though those technical flaws certainly exist in abundance within this genre. Rather, these are profound failures of perspective, where the authors seem entirely blind to how their attitudes, Judgments and behaviors resonate with the ordinary people who buy their books. As we begin to examine the specific chronicles that have caused such widespread dismay, we enter a realm where the written word becomes a double-edged sword. Capable of destroying a hard-won reputation with a single ill-conceived chapter, consider the profound shock that reverberates through a community when a celebrity known for their sharp intellect and engaging presence on screen delivers a written narrative that feels unexpectedly dismissive or cruel toward ordinary people. The expectation of entertainment and insight is suddenly replaced by a cold realization that the individual behind the glamorous facade may harbor perspectives that are deeply out of touch with the values of their audience. This disconnect becomes a catalyst for a broader reevaluation of the celebrity's entire career, as fans begin to re-examine past interviews, roles, and public statements through the lens of this newly revealed, less flattering reality. The subtle shifts in tone, the casual inclusion of judgmental observations, and the lack of empathy displayed in these texts can create a permanent barrier between the star and the public, proving that sometimes knowing too much about an idol is a dangerous thing. The intricate dance between fame and audience perception requires a delicate balance of relatability and aspiration, a balance that is easily disrupted when a memoir leans too heavily into arrogance, defensiveness, or an inability to acknowledge one's own immense fortune. As these stories unfold, they paint a complex picture of the modern entertainment industry, where the desire for authenticity can backfire spectacularly, leaving a trail of broken illusions and bewildered readers in its wake. The atmospheric tension builds as we realize that these literary endeavors, intended to solidify a legacy, have instead served as an unintended mirror, reflecting a reality that many wishes had remained completely hidden from view. The illusion of celebrity perfection completely shatters when we examine the specific pages where these public icons chose to lay bare their thoughts, only to alienate their audiences in ways they clearly never anticipated. One of the most glaring examples of this disconnect can be found in the literary debut of actress Olivia Munn, whose book titled Suck It, Wonder Woman, The Misadventures of a Hollywood Geek promised a witty, self-deprecating journey through the chaotic world of a self-proclaimed nerd rising through the ranks of the entertainment industry. Instead of finding a relatable ally, readers were blindsided by sections of the book where the author felt compelled to share highly critical, unsolicited, and unnecessarily cruel opinions regarding fat people. This sudden insertion of mean-spirited commentary felt entirely detached from the light-hearted, inclusive geek culture she had previously championed, leaving fans with an inescapable feeling that the welcoming public persona was merely an act, replaced in print by the unmistakable reality of a mean girl who uses her platform to punch down at ordinary individuals. This sense of betrayal is mirrored closely by those who grew up idolizing the wholesome charm of Candace Cameron Bure during her years on the classic television sitcom Full House, only to find themselves deeply alienated by her first memoir, Balancing It All, My Story of Juggling Priorities and Purpose. For an audience expecting an uplifting narrative about managing the complex demands of family life and a high-profile career, the text instead delivered an overwhelming wave of judgment that many readers described as deeply hypocritical and holier-than-thou, establishing a rigid, sanctimonious tone that foreshadowed the divisive cultural stances she would later adopt in her public life. Turning a nostalgic childhood favorite into a source of modern frustration, the digital era has birthed a completely new breed of celebrity whose entire empires are built on the foundational promise of absolute authenticity, making their failures in print feel even more devastating to the communities that raised them up. Shane Dawson, once a titanic figure on the YouTube platform, released 2 massive memoirs during the absolute peak of his internet fame, titled I Hate My Selfie and It Gets Worse. Millions of young viewers purchased these volumes looking for inspiration and raw, honest storytelling, but what they actually received was a repetitive cycle of excuses designed to justify a history of deeply problematic, offensive, and insensitive behavior under the guise of comedic edge. The irony of the title It Gets Worse was not lost on the readers who realized that the deeper they dug into his written words, the more they witnessed an absolute lack of genuine accountability, exposing a cynical manipulation of fan loyalty that permanently stained his digital legacy long before his eventual platform-wider reckonings. In a completely different corner of the media landscape, the culinary world experienced its own shocking moment of disillusionment with the release of lifestyle icon Ina Garten's highly anticipated autobiography, Be Ready When the Luck Happens. For decades, the public had viewed her as the ultimate source of warmth, elegance, and comforting hospitality, a maternal figure whose serene kitchen was a haven from the chaos of the world. Yet, within the pages of her own life story, many readers were stunned to encounter a pervasive, incredibly smug, and overly confident energy that felt entirely incompatible with the gentle soul they had watched on television for years, leaving a bitter taste in the mouths of thousands of dedicated home cooks who found themselves unable to finish a book that felt more like a monument to self-congratulation than an invitation into a shared journey. Even icons of modern comedy, celebrated specifically for their sharp self-awareness and brilliant social commentary, have not escaped this pervasive literary curse, proving that writing about oneself requires a level of objective detachment that few individuals truly possess. Tina Fey's massive bestseller Bossy Pants was widely praised upon its initial release as a feminist manifesto for women in creative industries, yet as the cultural conversation evolved, a growing number of readers began to find the text surprisingly reductive, relying on dated perspectives that failed to hold up under closer scrutiny and revealing the limitations of an author who was once considered ahead of her time. This subtle disappointment transforms into outright bewilderment when looking at the recent literary offering from Academy Award winner Matthew McConaughey, whose book Greenlights was marketed as a philosophical masterclass in navigating the complexities of human existence. While his eccentric charm and laid-back delivery work beautifully on a movie screen, the written format exposed a narrative that was described by former fans as incredibly poorly written, bogged down by an agonizing sequence of 3 separate introductions that repeatedly hammered home the exact same simplistic concept of catching green lights in life. Instead of the profound wisdom of a modern-day Socrates, readers found themselves trapped in a circular monologue that highlighted immense societal privilege masquerading as universal truth, transforming his beloved Hollywood charm into a caricature of a wealthy actor entirely insulated from the realities of everyday survival. This absolute absence of self-awareness reaches an absolute crescendo in the pages of Busy Phillips's autobiography. Hi. This Will Only Hurt a Little, a title that many readers found to be an accidental warning about the painful experience of enduring the text itself. The narrative within is frequently described as an exhausting display of extreme privilege, coupled with a dramatic, whiny, and deeply self-centered worldview that left audiences completely cold as the author detailed her personal grievances with a level of intensity usually reserved for global catastrophes. This pattern of elite insulation continues seamlessly into the realm of fiction-adjacent writing, as seen when actress Shay Mitchell released what she termed a semi-autobiographical novel titled Bliss, co-written with her best friend Michaela Blaney. Despite marketing the project as a heightened version of reality, the text featured a main character so thinly veiled that she even shared the author's Canadian heritage, serving as a transparent vehicle for the writer to boast about an incredibly lavish lifestyle while simultaneously attempting to protect her own public reputation by acknowledging past misdeeds in a way that felt entirely calculated, insincere, and deeply defensive. The world of reality television has contributed its own unique failures to this literary hall of shame, perhaps best exemplified by Tyler Cameron, the celebrated runner-up of The Bachelorette Season 15, whose book You Deserve Better, What Life Has Taught Me About Love, Relationships, and Becoming Your Best Self, was packaged as an empowering guide for the modern romantic. Instead of offering meaningful guidance, the pages were packed with repetitive stories about excessive drinking, casual hookups, and a level of terrible grammar that insulted the intelligence of the very audience that had supported his rise to fame, proving that reality television popularity rarely translates into meaningful literary substance. The landscape of contemporary literature is littered with these well-intentioned projects that ultimately severed the vital connection between the star and the public, leaving behind a trail of critical devastation. Lena Dunham's essay collection, Not That Kind of Girl, A Young Woman Tells You What She's Learned at 28, was heavily promoted as the defining voice of a generation. Yet it rapidly became known as one of the most polarizing and widely disliked books of its era, as readers found the content to be deeply uncomfortable, lacking in perspective, and profoundly out of touch with the diverse experiences of young women worldwide. Even when the writing itself possesses technical merit, the underlying personality can still completely alienate the audience, a reality that Cassie David encountered with her collection No One Asked for This, Essays. While her prose was undeniably sharp, the overarching tone painted a portrait of a person who seemed utterly insufferable to be around, simultaneously complaining about the heavy burden of being the child of an iconic celebrity while actively demanding and enjoying all the immense perks, wealth, and systemic access that came with that exact lineage, creating a deeply unlikable narrative dynamic that left readers feeling frustrated by her perpetual privileged misery. These accounts demonstrate that when a celebrity steps away from the safety of a script or a directed performance, the written word becomes an incredibly dangerous mirror that reflects their truest nature. A theme that deepens significantly as we look toward the underlying motivations, the painful histories, and the shocking lack of perspective that continues to define this fascinating cultural phenomenon. The deeper we venture into the world of celebrity autobiographies, the more apparent it becomes that a major root cause of these literary disasters is a fundamental lack of life experience combined with an overestimation of one's own narrative value. This specific pitfall is glaringly evident in A Very Punchable Face, a memoir by Saturday Night Live writer and Weekend Update co-anchor Colin Jost. While he has enjoyed a highly successful career in the competitive world of television comedy, readers found that his life simply had not contained enough dramatic weight, profound struggle, or unique insight to justify a full-length book. The resulting text was widely criticized as an incredibly boring exercise in privilege, leaving audiences wondering why a publisher felt this pleasant but ultimately unremarkable journey deserved a global platform. Proving that being a talented writer for others does not automatically mean your own life story is worth reading. This insult to the literary world is amplified tenfold when looking at the reality television crossover phenomenon, perhaps best embodied by Stassi Schroeder of Vanderpump Rules fame, who released Next Level Basic, the definitive basic bitch handbook. Marketed as a cheeky celebration of ordinary pop culture obsessions, the book was viewed by critics and everyday readers alike as an absolute joke and an outright insult to the entire publishing industry, offering shallow, repetitive, and entirely vapid commentary that exposed the complete emptiness behind the calculated influencer brand. Even global fashion icons and legendary pop stars, individuals who have reached the absolute pinnacle of international fame and wealth, have managed to alienate their global audiences through the medium of the autobiography. Victoria Beckham's early memoir, Learning to Fly, the autobiography, promised an intimate look at her transformation from a pop music phenomenon into a global fashion powerhouse, yet it ultimately left readers with a cold sense of detachment. Portraying a life so intensely curated, insulated, and filled with elite privilege that it was nearly impossible for ordinary people to find a single point of human connection. This feeling of alienation takes on a much darker and more troubling tone when we examine the rock and roll world, specifically through Face the Music, a life exposed by Paul Stanley, famously known to the world as the star child of the legendary rock band Kiss. One would assume that a man who has enjoyed one of the most spectacularly successful, lucrative, and enduring careers in the entire history of modern music would find a sense of gratitude or fulfillment in his memories. But the book instead reveals a person who appears to be one of the most thoroughly miserable, bitter, and resentful individuals on the planet. Page after page, Stanley recounts his massive triumphs with a complete absence of joy, focusing instead on decades-old grudges, petty grievances, and an underlying unhappiness that absolutely none of his immense wealth or global adoration could ever fix, leaving readers deeply unsettled by the sheer depth of his toxic worldview. This pattern of elite arrogance and bitter entitlement is a historical thread that connects multiple generations of Hollywood royalty, proving that this literary blindness is not merely a product of modern internet culture. The iconic Hollywood actress Lauren Bacall, celebrated for her smoky voice, immense talent, and classic cinematic legacy, released Lauren Bacall, By Myself and Now, an updated look at her legendary journey through the golden age of cinema. Instead of cementing her status as a beloved, graceful icon, the book deeply disappointed readers by presenting an author who came across as enormously smug, elitist, and profoundly entitled, treating her immense fortune as an absolute right rather than a remarkable privilege, and completely alienating the younger generations who had looked up to her historical legacy. A similar sense of profound disillusionment surrounds the literary offerings of Bebe Buell, a prominent singer, former model, and high-profile companion to some of the biggest rock stars of the 20th century, who is also widely known as the mother of actress Liv Tyler. Her books, Rebel Heart, An American Rock and Roll Journey and Rebel Soul, Music, Musings, and Magic were intended to be definitive historical documents of a vibrant revolutionary era in musical history. Instead, readers and rock historians alike found themselves wading through narratives that felt entirely fabricated, self-aggrandizing, and thoroughly untrustworthy, leading to a widespread consensus across pop culture forums that the author was simply full of nonsense, rewriting history to position herself as the crucial center of events that got along perfectly fine without her. When we look back at all of these disparate accounts, from reality television stars to legendary actors and rock stars, a powerful and undeniable theme begins to emerge regarding the true nature of fame and human connection. The celebrity memoir is a unique cultural artifact because it forces a public figure to step out from behind the safety of their creative output, their scripted lines, their edited videos, and their professional PR teams, demanding that they speak directly to the audience in their own authentic voice. What these disastrous books ultimately reveal is that many celebrities have become so deeply insulated by their own immense wealth, constant praise, and cultural privilege that they have entirely lost the ability to see themselves through the eyes of ordinary people. They publish thoughts that are cruel, judgmental, or profoundly boring because they truly believe that their status elevates every single one of their opinions into a work of absolute genius. For the readers who spend their hard-earned money and valuable time on these books, the experience serves as a powerful reminder that the glamorous individuals we worship on our screens are often deeply flawed, self-centered, and out-of-touch human beings in reality. This fascinating literary phenomenon has fundamentally changed the way audiences interact with celebrity culture, creating a much more critical, cynical, and discerning public that is no longer willing to accept a polished persona at face value. Ultimately, these memoirs stand as cautionary tales for the rich and famous, proving that while a well-written book can immortalize a legacy, a single moment of unedited, privileged honesty in print can completely destroy a lifetime of public adoration, leaving behind nothing but broken illusions and a permanent place in the hall of literary shame.